My name is Mathew Dickerson. I want to go through and talk to you about our business and what we've done over the last 18 years. We have had a business, or I've been involved in IT for 18 years, and I've started a number of businesses over those 18 years. So I'm not going to stand here and be prescriptive and say, you must do this in this way. What I really want to do is share with you some of the experiences that I've had, some of the things that have worked well, and some of the things that didn't work so well, and really go through and just, hopefully you'll pick up some hints and tips out of that process that you can go back and take into your business. I've been looking forward to coming over to Denver here ever since Microsoft invited me over. They gave me a few incentives to come over here, which I'll talk about in a moment. But one of the things I love doing when I come over to the US is going to the baseball. So we took a few Aussies along to the baseball on Saturday night, and that's always interesting when you've got some Aussies there. There's 3 loud Aussies there at the baseball, and we went and saw the Rockies and Phillies game on Saturday night. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with cricket, but every time they hit a home run, there was a few of us in the audience going, 6! And all the Aussies, all the Americans around us, you know. We're going, no, that's just 1 run. We're going, no, it's 6. You know, in our country it's 6. So yeah, we kind of, I'm sure, stir them up and amuse them greatly. One of the things I found fascinating, and every time I see it, I can never quite work it out, but the 7th inning stretch. You know, and I did the same. I stood up, everyone else stood up. I thought these went for 9 innings, but I guess we're going home. We're all standing up. And they started singing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. And I'm looking around, I'm going, all these guys are already here at the ball game, and they're saying, take me out to the ball game. But if you're someone wants to explain it to me later, that'd be much appreciated. I said one of the incentives that Microsoft enticed me over here with. They said, come along and talk at the symposium and at WPC, and that's always good fun, but I was pretty busy, and I said, I'm not sure if I can make it. They said, look, we'll offer you a bit of incentive. On the Sunday before the symposium, we'll let you play around with Alison Watson. So that sounds all right. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm there. Let's go. So yesterday morning, I turned up down at the conference centre. They said to turn up, and there I was. Alison was there, and 100 other partners. We jumped on the bus, went out to Arrowhead Golf Club. So I got to play around with Alison Watson yesterday, around golf. It was a magnificent golf course. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to get out to Arrowhead, but that was the sort of view down most fairways. I love that because my ball goes everywhere. It just kept bouncing off the rocks from side to side. What a great golf course. It was like putt golf on the golf course. So, and the thin air, they all kept telling us the thin air would mean we'd drive it 30 or 40 yards longer. So I thought, this is great. So I was hitting the ball 60 yards sometimes. You know? It was pretty good. I really like the thin air. Anyway, look, I don't want to go and show you a full photo shot of all the things I've done in Denver. It gets much seedier after that. I've got witnesses down the front here, I'm sure will vouch for that. So I'll go through and talk about that transition. And that's what I hope I can help you do, start the transition. One of the things Andrea said when she asked me to come over and speak was that the small business community, when I gave talks along these lines, say 12 months ago, most people wanted to know about SLAs and why we should move to SLAs. Andrea said this community is much smarter than that. They already know SLAs are the way to go. They already know that they're a smart business model to have in your business. So don't worry about talking to them about moving towards an SLA model. They're convinced of that. They really want to know how to do it. They want to know some of those transition steps. So I'm not going to bore you too much. I'm going to put a couple of facts which are quite relevant, but I'm really not going to get into great detail about the whole process with SLAs. I really want to just talk about the general overall view. Let's have a quick look at the current IT landscape. Now that's quite interesting. Some of the stats that I found when I was doing some research here. Hardware margins, you can talk to anyone that's sold hardware over the years. We all know hardware margins are shrinking, ticket prices are going down. Double negative. How are you ever going to make money in a hardware realm? The average ticket price for a PC has halved in real terms in the last 10 years. So you add that into the lowering margins, you're going to have a very tough time having a business model based around just hardware. Sure, if you're a Dell of the world and that's all you do at huge volumes, you might make some money out of it. But for the guys like us in our community, we just aren't going to do that volume. The second stat that I found, and this one was straight out of Redmond. They did some research for me on purchases of hardware versus maintenance. 30% of the average client's expenditure is on hardware, on capital works, on new project work. 70% is on ongoing maintenance. So if we've got our mindset around selling servers, selling new installations to clients, the 70% of the potential expenditure of our existing clients, forget about new clients, of our existing clients that we're never hope to get. So we need to make sure that we know what our business model is. The third one I'm a little bit embarrassed about. you won't repeat it outside this room, I hope. Our Federal Communications Minister recently made an announcement, and I've got some little Aussie squeezies here to give away to people in the audience and answer my question. She said the average Aussie now spends more money on technology than what?
Here. No way.
How do you know that?
No
Did you hear the
way.
last session?
No way.
I haven't got that many. Okay, who said it first?
I did.
Yeah. There you go. That's why I got them to stop. So it's a little bit embarrassing. The average Aussie now spends as much on technology as beer. Now, I'm embarrassed by that. In the normal international market that I like to be in, I like this image of Aussies as beer-swilling macho men. But we're actually a nation of nerds, a nation of geeks. We spend more money on our iPods and our PDAs than we do on having a beer down at the pub. So it's a bit embarrassing. But it gives you an idea, if technology has invaded Australia to that extent, imagine what it's doing across the world and imagine how pervasive it really is in society. One of the things that I've seen really change over the years is how mission critical IT systems are becoming now in the average businesses that we're doing work for. I've got little clients that have got one point of sale machine. 5 years ago, if their IT system went down, they'd pull out a docket book and they'd write out a docket. That was okay, that was acceptable. Now, they're relying on that IT system or that single PC for stock control, for FPOS credit card facilities, for maybe their profit and loss at the end of the week. They're relying on it for so many things. They just can't afford to have their IT system go down at all. I was in Vegas last month at another conference. And this room here just blew me away. You may be familiar with this sort of thing. I just haven't seen this before. In Caesar's Palace, there was a gaming room. Hundreds of little pods set up there. You could gamble on everything. There were odds on that screen there for college basketball and league baseball and horse racing. At one stage, there were 2 flies crawling up the wall, and I asked what the odds were of one of those winning. It was absolutely everything they had odds on there. And I talked to one of the guys who managed to take the photo. Obviously, I wasn't allowed to take a photo, but I talked to one of the guys and asked permission. And he was telling me that if that IT system went down at Caesars, it cost Caesars $100,000 per minute of turnover in gambling. Now, I'm sure not many of us have clients of that size, but it just gives you an idea of how dependent we are, our clients are, society is on IT. So clients want something that's going to manage that IT in a much more progressive and proactive way. So why would you change to an SLA? We've all got successful businesses. You wouldn't be here at this conference if you didn't have a successful business to some extent. But you also wouldn't be sitting in this room if you didn't think there was maybe something you could fine tune or something you could do a little bit better. So why do you want to change from SLA? Well, I guarantee if you implement a well-designed SLA, there's 3 major things you'll see. You reduce your staff workload, you reduce the stress on your staff, you reduce your staff turnover. In an industry that has the average staff turnover of 18 months, which is unbelievable, reducing your staff turnover is a fantastic thing to do. You reduce your staff sick days because the staff are a bit more excited about coming to work each day. They've got a much more progressive model that they can work within the boundaries of. So their staff workload will definitely reduce. You'll maintain your current client base. And this is a common one that people say. They say, I'm scared. In fact, one gentleman in the last presentation said exactly this. I'm scared about moving to an SLA arrangement because I might lose some clients. I'll talk about it a little bit more in a moment, but you'll definitely maintain at a bare minimum your current client base. And the most important one, you're not going to come to a conference like this and sit around and work out ways to lose money. You're going to work out ways to improve your business profitability. You put in an SLA, a well-constructed SLA, you'll absolutely, definitely improve your business profitability. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Let me go back to that point I made, the fear of losing clients. There's probably 50% of the people who talk about moving to an SLA, one of their number one fears is they will lose some clients. Now, how many people in the audience have got an SLA at the moment that they're running with? Oh, much cleverer audience than the last audience. Those guys only had about 10%. But that number that I just saw then is a much higher number than any talks I've given in the past 2 years about SLAs, because really I think the small business community has started to catch on to this much quicker than a lot of other environments. So well done to yourselves for actually being progressive. One of the fears that people have when they start to think about moving to an SLA is that clients won't like it. We literally drew a line in the sand and said, this is our new business model. Our old business model is there. We're not doing that anymore. I had 2 particular clients who were very vocal against SLAs. one client, he's actually a guy I went to school with. I've known him forever. He's got a very successful business. Actually, it was his dad's business and he got it handed down to him, but very successful business. He said to me, mate, this is your retirement fund. You're just putting some money together because you want to retire in a couple of years. I'm not paying this. In fact, hell will freeze over before I sign up to an SLA. And I took that as a no or a maybe. So we kept going through the process, and we didn't shut the door in. We said, well, when you need us, we're here, and we'll start talking about that. He rang one day and they had a few problems on their network. I said, look, I'll send someone over to have an inspection, and then we might talk about SLAs again. They did an inspection. They needed 82 patches on his server, 78 patches on each workstation on his network. They were infected with a virus. They had an out-of-date virus signature file. So he had a couple of little problems on his network. The technician went over and said, look, these things are actually taken care of automatically on an SLA. Have you considered an SLA? I think the blood started to boil and the client flashed again. He didn't want to know about it. A couple of days later, I got an email which I absolutely loved. He said, Matthew, we can start singing as much as we like. Hell is frozen over. An SLA. And he signed up. Very vocal against the concept, but he signed up. I had a meeting with him just before I left from home. And he thought the concept now was absolutely great. Once he started to see the benefits to his organisation, he loved it. There was another client who was very similar. He was an accountant. He just didn't like spending money. Most accountants don't like spending money. He went through the process and said, I'm not going to sign up to something that judges how important I am as a client on how much money I spend. I thought, well, that's a great way to judge how important you are. But so we left him alone for a while, and eventually he came back, signed up to an SLA. Within 2 months of signing up, he'd actually talked to another organisation that he was involved with and convinced this other organisation to sign up 2 sites as well. So all of a sudden you get people who are very strongly against it. Once you leave them alone and they get convinced of the concept, they'll suddenly be very strong advocates for the business model. So don't be scared of it, and if you do lose a client out of it, it's probably a client that you go, whew, glad I'm rid of that guy. It's probably not the people that you really want to have as your clients. So let's just throw around a couple of quick facts. The first fact, and these are facts that come out of the same department in Australia that I gave you, the technology. We spend more on technology than beer. It's the Federal Communications Minister. So it's the politician that's delivering them, so they have to be 100% right. Is that right? So 14% of the average business has their business expenditure on IT. So that means, if you look at my 30-70% before, if only 30% of the business market you're approaching or attacking, with 14% of that, you're reducing yourself to only 4% of potential expenditure of a client's overall expenditure. Now, when you think that rent and wages probably soak up the major part of expenditure, IT would have to be up there as maybe the 3rd highest level of expenditure. But you're missing out on a lot there. You're missing out on 10% of their expenditure. And sometimes you sit there at a WPC conference and you've got, 12,000 people sitting in the audience. And someone from Microsoft says the small business market is worth, and you see these numbers with billions on them, and I sit back and go, yeah, that's not bad, I wouldn't mind some of that, but I don't know that I'm going to get the billions of dollars they talk about. What I really like doing when I look at stats is look at percentages, because I can relate that into my business. If I know a client has an average expense, if you like, of their business of $100,000, I know that their IT is probably going to be around 14 grand a year. I don't need to ask the client what their expenditure is. So 14% of business expenditure. The next one, I want someone to guess for me. They don't have to get close. I'll give you a hint. At the opposite end of the spectrum of the Phillies win record, the percentage of productivity gains that they say are directly attributable to IT. Just throw out a number at me. 20%. What do you think it might be? Sorry? 20. 20. That's close enough. 78%. Not that hard to win a prize, is it? 78%. That's a number you should be quoting to your clients day in and day out. If 78% of business productivity is directly attributable to IT, then they better make sure their IT is running as well as possible. That's a great number. You might do some local research and find out what it is in America, but all the research that I've ever done in Australia tends to suggest it's fairly similar in most regions across the world, give or take a couple of percent, maybe not as big a percentage as the gentleman guessed there in difference. But that 78% is a great number to go and quote to your clients. It just demonstrates to them how important IT is to their business. The alternative is walk into a client's network, unplug their server, and then sit down and have a meeting with him and say, let's see how much productivity you gain over the next hour while we have a meeting. I mean, they'd probably run you out of the office, but it demonstrates that in a very clear and concise way. It's the old saying, it's one I love. If you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always got. Now, the definition, or one definition of insanity, is to keep doing what you've always done and expect a different result. It's not going to happen. So if you're not happy with your business model at the moment, or think you want to fine-tune it or change it, then don't expect some different results if you don't make some changes. It reminds me of a story. Back home, there's a sport, I'm not sure if you call it a sport, but there's an activity that some friends of mine partake in called pig shooting. Now, it's not your nice little cute pink pig with little piglets. These things are kind of twice the size of a normal pig. They run wild, they've got these huge tusks, and they have been known to kill people, and they actually kind of rip into your stomach and do some major damage. So they go out shooting. It's a bit like the English sport of fox hunting, but on steroids, and a bit of danger about it. So you get the picture. These guys go to a deserted property, they get a chartered plane, they land on a little dirt runway, and they go pig shooting for the weekend, come back, jump in the plane, and off they go back to their normal office job. One weekend they were out there, and they actually had done quite a good job the weekend. The three of them had managed to shoot 3 pigs. They wanted to bring them back as trophies. And so the pilot's landed there and he's ready to pick them up, and he said, guys, there's no way known to mankind I can carry 3 pigs and you 3 guys, too much weight for the plane. Bit of an argument ensued, and eventually the guy said, look, the last pilot that picked us up, he let us put the 3 pigs on the plane. And Aussies hate to be outdone by anything. So the pilot said, right, if he could do it, I'm going to do it as well. So they loaded up the 3 pigs, 3 guys got on, off they went down the runway, bounced along the little dirt runway. They probably got a foot or 2 off the ground. There was too much weight on the plane. Ended up crashing into some trees at the end of the runway. Not major damage, kind of, they're all okay, knocked unconscious. One of the guys kind of woke up and he's a bit unsure of what happened. He just had a hit to the head. He looked around, where are we? And the other guy looked around, he said, I think we crashed in the same spot as we did last year. So, if you're happy doing, or happy getting the results that you've always got, then just keep doing it. But if you want to change, you're going to have to make some changes along the way. So the first thing we did, we decided we needed a better business model. Simple as that. How do you do it? Well, the first thing you do is go to Google and you see what's out there. And we didn't find much out there. We found maintenance contracts, and I'll talk a bit more about those in a moment, but we didn't find anything that compelling out there. So the next thing we did was we said, let's see what our clients want by asking them. Pretty revolutionary. So I committed to an arduous program of long lunches, long coffee breaks, nights at the pub, beers. I put on about 15 pounds during the process. But I interviewed lots of my key clients, and I said, what do you want? I got some great advice from them. And the thing that I loved was I was interviewing guys that might be charging their time out at $300 an hour, accountants, solicitors, that type of thing. I bought lunch for them, $20. And I'm getting advice for an hour off them about what they wanted in a business model. It was great. So I got some really good information about what our clients wanted. Next thing I did was I looked a bit more at the maintenance contracts. And I talked to some clients about the maintenance contracts, and clients said, we don't want that. We don't like the concept of the maintenance contract. And by what I call traditional maintenance contracts, or old style, which, let me say, 7 or 8 years ago, people that started maintenance contracts were pioneers. It was a fantastic model. I think we've moved on from that now, though. I think people have asked for a little bit more from their IT provider. But the old maintenance style contract was the one where you bought, let's say, 10 hours a month, and you charged $1,500, just as a simple example. And then you did some work for the client. At the end of the month, you tallied up your hours, and you charged the client a bit extra, or you went a bit under, you went, that's great, I had a nice month from that client. That sort of process, there was no proactivity, there was no ongoing maintenance. It was really just charging the client a minimum block of hours. And the thing that really, or 2 things really grated on clients with that. The first one was, if you went over the hours that had been allocated, you charged the client some more. Well, that's okay for you, but the client didn't like it because they thought they were paying a certain amount for their work to be done. The second thing was, if you went under, well, the client didn't like that because you felt like he was being ripped off because he'd allocated 10 hours and only got charged 5 hours. So that didn't seem like a good outcome for the client as well. So they didn't really like that concept. It didn't seem to be a concept that they really liked. What they did tell me, strong and loud and clear, was that there were 4 key features. The most overriding concept they wanted was a fixed cost. They didn't want a minimum cost like a maintenance contract. They wanted a ceiling on it. They wanted to know the maximum or the set amount that they would pay for all their IT work to be done every single month. What a great concept. In fact, we did some focus groups, and some of the things that came back from the focus groups, they said, well, this is great, this covers 98% of what we want, but can you add in this and this and this? Because we just want 100% of it covered. So people really want to know about the fixed costs. The second thing they wanted was some guaranteed response time. They wanted to know that when you said you'd be there a certain amount of time, you didn't get too busy or you didn't say, we'll do our best. They wanted to know that you would be there in a certain amount of time. They also wanted someone that knew their network. Now, one of the things you can do is have some good network documentation. It's a great way to do it. It also might be some regular contact with their technical staff, with your technical staff and the client. In that way, you've got someone that's in touch with the network. One thing that frustrates clients no end is technician A turns up one month, does a bit of work. Technician B turns up next month and says, I don't know why you've got A, B and C. And the client says, well, that's what your technician did last month. So they get really frustrated when it's not consistency in the work done. And the last thing they wanted was they just wanted to talk to people. They wanted to talk to people in sales. They wanted to talk to people in the technical department. They wanted to know what was happening in IT. They wanted to be their local neighbourhood cookout expert. I'm using cookout because we use barbecue, but barbecue doesn't make any sense to Americans. So they wanted to be standing around the cookout at their local neighbourhood and say, I know what's going on in IT, at a very high level. They wanted to just be a bit in touch. How did they do that? By having some regular contact with your staff. So when we looked at all that, we said to ourselves, what does someone see when they see that on the screen? Can someone read? This is English. Thank you. Opportunity is nowhere. That's what we said to ourselves. We went through the process and we said, this is too hard. This is all too hard. We talked to our staff, we said this is what our clients wanted, and they laughed at me. They said, well, they might want that, but we can't deliver all that. Who are you kidding? We can't give them fixed costs. We can't give them guaranteed response times. They're dreaming. Forget about it. Let's just go back to the old way. So I scratched my head and I went, well, maybe they're right. Maybe we can't do it. It seemed like a nice idea. I had a few nice lunches. Maybe I should just give up. I thought about it a bit longer. And I said, well, maybe, and someone was clever enough up the front here to say that, maybe, and you deserve a squeezy for that, maybe the opportunity is now here. Maybe, if it's too hard for me, maybe it's too hard for lots of other service providers. Maybe it's too hard for my competitors. Maybe it's too hard for lots of people. So maybe the opportunity is now here to design a better SLA, to design a revolutionary SLA, to design something that's going to deliver what the clients wanted. Great concept. Maybe it's time to design a better mousetrap. So we said, let's go about designing a better SLA for our clients. And let's look at what are the important things in that SLA and what things you might need to look at. First thing is, how do we change? Well, we need to look at whether we want to take a few little baby steps. One thing I learned at the baseball the other night was, if you're going to steal second base, you've got to take your foot off first base. That involves a little bit of risk. You know, you can still get, is it called running up? You can still picked off, tagged out. You can still get tagged out if you take your foot off first and start to move towards second. So there's a bit of risk, but there's also a reward. You get to progress to the second base. So if I learned baseball, is that I've got the hang of it? So do you take some baby steps or do you take a big bet on your business? And I've seen people try and do it where they kind of, if you like the baseball analogy, they edge off first base a little bit and they're thinking about going towards second base, and the next thing you know, the pitcher throws at second base and they go, whew, lucky I didn't move towards second base because I'd be tagged out now. Whereas in your business, you need to make a decision to go with one model or the other. I think you need to make a big bet on your business. Having a hybrid model confuses you, that's going to confuse your staff, and that sure as anything is going to confuse your clients. If you've got a bit each way, a bit of a business model that's SLA and a bit of a break-fix mentality in your organisation. So I think you need to make that big bet on your organisation. Then you need to design the model, but you need to believe in the model. You need to have the conviction to follow through in that model. Get the model right. I've been to some SLA talks, and I won't mention any names, but you'll see some of those talks where they'll say, here's all the marketing collateral. This is great. Go out there and sell SLAs to your clients. But you need to have a model that backs that up. All that happens is you sell some SLA to your clients, you've got some vaporware behind it, and there's nothing there to actually support what you've got. So you need to believe in the model and have the conviction to follow through that model. Get that model right and believe in it. The saying that I often use is, if you start a job, you're often halfway there. Sometimes actually going through that SLA process means you need to start it. That sounds easy. One of the stats that I got again out of Redmond was that when we all leave this conference, when we all leave WPC at the end of the week, we'll implement some changes in our business, minor changes, major changes, whatever it might be. If we implement those changes, 95% of the changes we start to make will happen within the first 7 days of leaving the conference. Or in other words, if we don't do it within the first 7 days, 5%. Some people do. 5% is all that happens. 5% of people. So if you don't do it in the first 7 days, I'll be here talking to you next year saying, you've got to make that change, and you'll be sitting there going, oh, I was going to do that last year, you know, but I just never quite got around to it. The journey of 1,000,000 miles starts with one step. You need to start to make that change before you're actually going to get there. So make that decision to change. That's really important. If you take nothing else away from this, if you take nothing else, if you don't steal any of my jokes, if anything you don't do one thing, make that decision to change, and that'll be the first thing you'll do. So what are the steps? Once you've made that decision, you say to yourself, well, what steps am I going to do? What things am I going to do to start to make that change? Well, do what I did. Interview some of your key clients. They love it. They feel really important. They think you're going to try and sell them something, but once you actually sit down and start asking your opinion, people love to give their opinion. People love to talk about things. They'll sit there and they'll talk about it for the next hour, telling you what you should do with your business to help improve your business. People fill in surveys all the time because they want to help someone else. They want to give their opinion. So interview those key clients. It's actually quite fun, sitting around, having coffees, having lunches, interviewing those key clients. Just be careful what you tell the rest of your staff you're doing. Tell them it's a really arduous program you're going through. Otherwise, I think you're just going to long lunches all the time. So interview those key clients. As I said a moment ago, get the business model right. You cannot, I believe, you cannot go out to the market with an SLA marketing program without something behind it. That'd be like going out and marketing a new software package before it's finished, wouldn't it? That'd never happen. So make sure you've got a business model that you think is right before you go out to market. And bring your team along for the ride. If you talk to any of my staff, if you said to them, what's the one thing that Matt says all the time? I always say, get on the bus. I want all my staff on the bus going in the same direction. I don't care if sometimes they're a passenger, sometimes they're driving, sometimes they're telling the driver where to go. I want them all on the bus. I don't want them sitting on the sidewalk, being a passenger, being on the sidewalk, watching the bus go past. I want them at the very worst as a passenger. I want them believing where we're going. Once you've done that and you've convinced them of the model, get a couple of your key people. Get some key roles for them. Some of those key roles might be the marketing, it might be the maintenance contracts. Get them to design some of those things for you. I know I started as a one-man band. Sometimes you might have all those key roles built into one person, but you still need to almost identify some of those key roles and get some training up for those. And then design your internal system. We've got 5 key deliverables that we give money-back guarantees on. We need to use something to track those key deliverables to make sure that's able to go and be delivered to our clients. And if it isn't, we need to work out why it isn't and track that information through as well. And then target your key customers that are most likely to sign up to an SLA. They're a very easy sell. They're your early adopters. They're people who in a business organisation have a great amount of importance in their IT because it's very important to their organisation. The first client that we picked on was an accounting firm. I know he'd made the comment to me in the past that if his IT was down, it cost him $1,000 an hour. I then went in with a proposal of an SLA that was going to cost him $2,000 a month. And the first thing I said to him was, with proactive maintenance, with scheduled downtime, with a network that's running better, I'm going to save you at least 2 hours a month. And I knew that was the magic number because it equated to 2,000. He said, okay, well, that sounds good enough to me, let's sign up. It was about that hard. But I'd picked my target very definitely because I wanted someone who was going to be very easy to sign up. Once you start getting some of those easy sign-ups, you'll start to get that snowball effect. That person will talk about it at the pub one Friday night. He'll talk to it at a function with some friends. Next thing you know, you'll get people ringing you, asking if they too could be part of this SLA club that you've started to generate. So target some of those key clients that you want. What things do you expect to see in a modern SLA? And this will be interesting because there's a lot of people in here who have an SLA. So I'll be interested afterwards in some of the comments in terms of some of these things that people might already have in there. One of the things, or 5 things if you like, that I think stand out, the first thing is that I threw away hours. I said, we don't talk to clients about hours any longer. We don't talk to clients about how many hours a job's going to take. We have a fixed price for every single job we do. No matter how small, no matter how large, we have a fixed price. That means the client agrees to the price before we do the work, and as long as we do the work, the client pays. We don't have arguments and discussions about bills anymore because the client said, okay, do that job for me, charge me X dollars, everything's right. If it takes us too long to do it, we need to look at that internally in terms of our staff training. but why should the client be penalised because one of our guys made a mistake on the job or didn't quite know how to do that job, or it should have taken less time? So we do it all around no hours and just quote on work. What we've done is we talk to our clients about, well, it has to be an acronym, doesn't it? If it's in IT, it has to be an acronym. OBSW. All our clients know what OBSW. Can anyone guess what OBSW is?
Outcome-based service work.
Excellent. Well, you guys here in the last talk, you guys are too good with the answers. Oh, good work. You really got one of those. Okay.
Can you repeat it?
Outcome-based service work. So we talk to our clients about outcome-based service work. We don't talk to them about hours. In fact, there's a guy by the name of Ken Baker in the US who talks about value accounting. He's evangelising the entire accounting industry around charging on outcomes, not on time. And I saw this demonstrated perfectly. My accountant, when I used to ring him, he's a very friendly guy. He'd ring, or I'd ring and he'd say, Matt, how you going? How are the kids? How's the wife? What's happening? What do you think of the football on the weekend? Nice little friendly chat, and then we started talking about the question I had. And I just thought he was very friendly. I was in his office one day when he had to take a phone call. He started going through all these standard questions, but he had an egg timer on his desk. And as soon as he started asking the questions, he flipped it over. Yeah. So the egg timer started going through. Once he got to the 6 minutes, he ticked off on his sheet that was 6 minutes he could charge the client. So the accountant's industry, if you like, is all based around these little 6 minute increments of time. What Ken Baker is saying is accountants throw away that time. Start charging your clients on the value you're adding to their business. And I believe IT can do exactly the same. We can start to charge clients on the outcomes we're achieving for a client. Not how many hours work we did. Who cares? The client doesn't care. They want to know if they've got a good IT system that's actually operational. You need an easy to calculate price. So many IT providers I've talked to have said, I do SLAs now. It takes me about 6 hours to calculate how much I'm going to charge a particular client. Every single individual in our organisation, our receptionists, our technicians, our sales guys, can do an SLA quote in 1 minute. It needs to be that simple. We've got a fixed number of variables, you sit numbers in those, that produces a quote for them. It needs to be that simple. You need to also make sure that you make some commitment to your clients. We give money back guarantees. Very scary concept. People in our organisation, our staff, were very scared. They had all these things that they thought were going to happen if we started offering money back guarantees. We had to give 5% of our monthly fee back to clients on the odd occasion we haven't met some of our deliverables. But wow, the goodwill that it generates for those clients, and we've been at fault, so I had no problem paying that 5%, but the goodwill it generates, and also the internal focus we have on delivering what we promised, very powerful, very strong. So you need to have something like that where you show the commitment you have to the client. Yes, sir.
So when you say money back guarantees, are you having your clients prepay?
Absolutely, I'll get to that in a moment, but all our clients have to pay at the very minimum a month in advance and up to 12 months in advance. So, and then the money back guarantees are 5% of the money back guarantee. That answers?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, and the last one, very powerful again. This is the thing that I probably love the most. Proactive maintenance, proactive consultancy, discussions with clients, make things proactive. Make a very progressive relationship with your client rather than just have them ring up when something goes wrong. You want something, a framework in place that's in the absolute best interest of both parties to keep your network running. The old style maintenance contracts I talked about, the thing that I always found amusing in a sad kind of way was that if you did a really bad job setting up a network, which I'm sure no one in this room has ever done, but our competitors sometimes do, then you get rewarded for setting up a bad network because you get to do more work for your client. What sort of system is that it rewards bad work initially with more ongoing work? I used to always tell the story that when I'd come into a staff meeting, we have a staff meeting on Monday mornings with our staff, I'd hand out cushions. I'd hand out cushions to all the staff, we'd all drop to the ground on our knees and we'd start saying our prayers. You know, dear Lord, I hope someone's network breaks down this week. We need to make some money this week. But we're also good that we used to set up really good networks and they didn't break down very often. So we were on a business model that was going downhill. So I had to start thinking, do I start telling my staff to set up the networks really badly? Or do I come up with a different business model? Which is where I thought this framework, where a really well-configured network is rewarding us and also rewarding the client because they want their network to stay up as often as possible. You want your staff doing work on computers that don't look like this, not when they're sick, you want them doing work on computers when they're healthy. Imagine a doctor that said to you, come in and see me, son, because you look pretty healthy. You say, what? I should look at you now while you're healthy, because the stats prove that 25% of males in the world, the first sign they have of a heart attack is when they're dead. Well, probably not for them. The first sign someone else is having a heart attack is when they die. So the first sign that males across the world get they're about to have a heart attack is when they actually die from it. So imagine a doctor that said, we want to be proactive. That's what we can do. We've got the ability to be proactive and work on a client system when it's healthy to keep it healthy, rather than waiting till it all falls over. So these are some of the key elements that I see in a modern SLA. What are the benefits to the client? Well, if you're going to sell any, you need to have some benefits to the client. They need to see some great benefits. The last session, someone asked me, did people spend more from when they used to be break-fix to when they sign up to an SLA? Most people tripled their spend with us when they sign up to an SLA. They're not going to do that unless there's some great benefits for them. So let's go through it. Fixed prices. That was absolutely crucial for a client to see that they were going to get some value. There's a fixed price. It's going to be X dollars per month. They love it. The other thing they love is they choose their level and their price. So when we do a quote, it runs platinum, gold, silver, bronze. There's different prices and different levels of support. A client might say, well, I like to look at the bronze price. No problem, sir. Are you happy with a 6-hour response time? No, I want a 1-hour response time. Okay, that'll be platinum then. Oh, okay. So then they make a choice. Once they've made the choice, they're committed to that. They know the choice they've made, and if they've made a mistake, they'll upgrade. I've had clients who have started on bronze. After a few months, they've gone to silver, then up to gold, and then all the way to platinum in a 12-month period. Yes, sir.
When you've got your 4 levels of service, none of them include any possibility of billable work. It's all based on response time.
No, they all include the possibility of billable work.
They all do.
They all do include a possibility of billable work. Even a platinum client, because a platinum client who gets basically everything for free might still have a situation where they've got a project that's outside the scope of works that we've identified.
But it's still fixed price.
Absolutely, thank you very much. Gentleman's very clever. He said it's still fixed price. Absolutely right. So the idea is you can still do project work outside the normal work that you might do, but the SLA is very clear in defining what's included as part of that SLA. So the client chooses. They're comfortable with that. I have never, ever, ever had a client say to me, after they've signed an SLA, I'm not happy about how much I'm paying. They might say, I wasn't happy because you didn't respond quickly enough, or the guy that did the maintenance check last month, he wasn't very good. They might complain about what's being delivered, but they never complain about the price because they, in effect, chose their price by choosing the level they wanted to be on. So that's one great benefit to the client. Proactivity with scheduled downtime. Take a simple example. Someone's Exchange database, 15.5 gigs. They're going to run out of space in the next month. You talk to the client. You say, we need to apply a service pack to Exchange to get you up to date. It'll probably already be applied because you're running some regular maintenance, but just as a simple example. You talk to the client and say, we're going to have to take Exchange offline. We're going to have to apply a service pack. We're going to have to make some registry changes. When's convenient for you in the next month to do that? The client says, it might be Saturday, but the client says, here is a convenient time for me. I might have some staff training on. I might have a time that's convenient. Fantastic, we'll do it that time. Much less stress on your staff, much less stress on the client. The client absolutely loves the fact that you're working in with his business for the best outcome. A great benefit. Yes, sir.
And if he wanted you to come in on the weekend?
If you wanted to come on the weekend, we'll certainly do that. We've got overtime insurance where we'll do it for free on the weekend, or we can charge a set amount extra to come in and do work on a weekend. So again, that's what the client wants, that's fine. Yeah. How many clients have you ever had that you've given a proposal to, everything's right, they want it, they love you, they love the organisation, they're just about to sign the dotted line, and then they look at their profit and loss just one last time. Look, I want to do it, but I just can't afford it this year. Bit tight this year, we'll put it off for next year. And you go, damn, I've done all the hard work, I've got the sale, but he just can't afford it. If you've got a client that's got better uptime, that's got a better running network, 78% productivity increase, they're going to make more money. In my experience, it is so much easier to sell to a client who is profitable than one that's really struggling with their profits. If you can deliver better profits because of the work that you're doing in the network, then you're going to deliver the ability to sell to them in a much easier way. So a great benefit to the client. The consultancy visits, 3 key things that our clients love in consultancy visits. The first one is you keep the client informed. You let them know what's going on in their network, what's happening in the IT industry, what's happening in general, when they should be considering an upgrade, what's happening in your business, what's going on in your business that we might be able to cater in the IT environment for something a bit better. So you keep the client informed. You also review the relationship. Clients are paying in advance. They sign a 12-month legal contract. If they're not happy with the services you're delivering, they're not going to just get up and go and get someone else to do their work. They've made a commitment to you as you have to them. The consultancy visits are a great opportunity to sit down and say, how's it working for you? Are you happy with everything? Should we change something that we're doing? I keep fine-tuning our SLAs, and some of that is driven by consultancy visits. Clients make suggestions to me. The overtime insurance I mentioned before was a classic. One client said to me, look, when you do work on weekends, which we sometimes nominate, you're charging me that little bit extra, which I understand, but I want a fixed price. Can you build in some sort of overtime insurance so we just get the work done after hours when it needs to be done? I said, great idea. Let's build that into the next round of SLAs we roll out. So we keep modifying. Yes, madam.
Who are making those visits? Is it yourself? Is it a technical manager? Is it consultants? I mean, engineers who's doing it?
We try and vary that around. It's a sales staff. It's not technical staff. The technical staff are on site when they're doing, sorry, the question for anyone that didn't hear was who was doing the visits. The technical staff are doing the maintenance visits, so they'll probably have a bit of a conversation with the business owner as well, but we want to have a conversation with the business owner or the key decision maker. So we send one of our sales staff in, or when I'm in the country I sometimes go along to them as well. And they're quite enjoyable. Client gets a cup of tea out for you, they might have a few bickies out for you. You sit down and have a bit of a chat about the ongoing IT work that you're doing. In fact, it's at the stage now with the maintenance checks. One of our staff in particular, a very friendly young guy that we have in doing our maintenance checks, there's a couple of clients that bring cakes and biscuits out for him every month when he comes along to do maintenance visits because they love the fact that he comes along in a proactive manner. Yeah, sorry.
The heck is a biggie?
A biggie, sorry. I've tried to eliminate any Aussie sayings out of the discussion. Biscuit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Marketing cookie.
If you, just for future reference, if you're not sure about things that an Aussie says, you can pretty much guarantee that we take any word, shorten it and add E to the end. So, biscuit, big E. You know, it's pretty simple to be an Aussie, we're not too complicated. So you review the relationship on an ongoing basis. And the third thing you would do is you assess needs. Can anyone tell me a better term for assess needs?
Sales.
Make sales, but you've already got something, so someone else, there you go. I know you're not nodding that. Okay, you assess the needs. You talk to them about their business. You talk to them about where they're going and what things they might need to do. You get them, this is really good, you get them to put expenditure in their budget. That means when you talk to them in 12 months' time about that new network, it's in their budget already. It's a great selling tool. We talked about that 12 months ago. It's already in your budget and it's time to do that upgrade now. They can't say, well, I can't afford it because it's in their budget. They can't say they don't need it because we've been talking about it for 12 months. They typically say, well, okay, do you want to do it next month or the month after? When can you fit it in? It's a great little tool to use to help them assess their needs. It's great to have some benefits to the client, but we really need some benefits to us. We wouldn't go and do it if it was all beneficial to the client and there was no benefits to the IT providers. So what's the first benefit that I've seen? Dealing with your clients in a proactive rather than reactive manner is extremely powerful. We see now that our clients love seeing the access guide. They love seeing the guide turn up. As I said before, they have cakes, they have biscuits out for them, they have a cup of tea, they have all sorts of things out there because they love seeing our technicians turn up. In the past, what happened was, oh, an access guy's here, must be something wrong with our network, must be a problem. Now they don't think that. The instant reaction is, oh, you're here to check on things, great. We feel really confident now that you're here. We love the fact that you're here looking after our network. One thing that I've seen absolutely is staff are performing less admin work. Put up your hand if you've got technicians that love doing invoices. Yeah, didn't think so. I don't know a technician that absolutely lives for doing his invoices at the end of the day. Normally it's, okay, done those invoices, what about the month before and what about the month before that? Which isn't great for your cash flow as a business owner. The technicians, they just love IT. Who cares about little inconsequential detail like invoicing the client? That can be done by someone else. In this model, it is done by someone else. We don't have our technicians doing invoices. We have our admin staff doing our invoices, and typically that 12 months or the month in advance, That work is all done in that proactive sort of manner where the client, the IT technician, just has to go along and actually do the work. Again, they're still recording job sheets, but they're not having to invoice for it. You get some long-term revenue guarantees. I'll talk about it in a little while, about exactly what's happening in our business to put a bit of substance behind what I'm talking about here. But without a doubt, you'll capture additional revenue. I've already talked about that 70%. You'll capture additional revenue out of your existing client base. You will definitely have an edge in the marketplace, and you will have some long-term revenue guarantees. Forget about that concept I talked about where we're all sitting around kneeling and praying. We now know, I can tell you now, the minimum amount of income my organisation is going to get for the next 12 months. That's fantastic in terms of what we've been used to. And I guarantee if you implement good, well-constructed SLAs, you will make more money. I absolutely guarantee that. You cannot fail to make more money if you do it in the correct way. So, it's all well and good to hear people sit up and talk about what you should do, what you can do, the theory behind it all. It's nice. What I love about these conferences is you get a partner in front of you and the partner talks about what's happened to them. And it puts a little bit of legitimacy behind. So let me talk about our business. Let's just focus on me just for a moment. It's always a good topic to talk about. So in my particular business, I'm in a very small city, 40,000 people. So, you know, you guys have airports that have got more than 40,000 people in them. The conference centre, you know, that's kind of half the size of our city. 40,000 people means we don't have large businesses. We've got, in Dubbo, there are only something like 50 businesses that employ more than 50 people. So we don't have a lot of big businesses to go and chase. So very small business that we've got, about a $4 million turnover. So again, a very small business. We launched SLAs in July 2005. So we've only had them going for about 2 years, or a little bit over 2 years now. We did some focus groups before July 2005, but July 2005 we launched them properly. In that time, we've already got now 100 sites under SLAs. So again, remember, 40,000 people, we're a very small business. 100 of our sites now are covered by an SLA at varying levels, which I'll get to in a moment. We've got over 1,000 computers under management. And that's about the right ratio. The average client we have would probably have about 10 PCs. Some are less, some are more, but that's about the sort of size business we're dealing with. And I'd imagine most people in this audience are probably that same sort of average size business, probably some a little bit larger than that. But 1,000 computers. So there's 1,000 people out there that are relying on our SLA framework that we've designed. The thing that amazed me was when we first went through the planning process, we thought that most people would go to bronze and maybe silver because they were cheaper. I misread the market. Cheaper wasn't what it was about. People wanted the services and the delivery. 75% of our clients are on platinum and gold. Platinum's the all-you-can-eat plan. Gold is the almost all-you-can-eat. So those are the plans that people want. They want the fixed price costing on those higher level models. It might get to the stage in a year or two where it just drop off bronze altogether. We don't have a lot of clients on there. I wouldn't annoy too many people. We'd push them up to silver and above. We might just drop it out. 75% are on those higher levels, which really says that's what people want. This is the number that I love. $600,000 now of our income is guaranteed on annual or longer SLA agreements. So that there isn't extra project work, that isn't extra hardware sales that we derive from our SLA clients. That is the minimum amount of money that clients have signed on the dotted line to pay to us sometimes in advance, or always at least monthly in advance. And the one that I also love is that 65% of my income of that $600,000 is delivered to me 12 months in advance. What's it do for my cash flow? Fantastic. What I should do is just take all the payments and then skip the country. No, I didn't do that. So 65% is paid 12 months in advance. We offer clients a 12% discount to pay 12 months in advance, which is better than a bank interest rate. But for the admin work and for the commitment that client has made to our organisation, it's well and truly worth it. The funny part is, the most common client we have that pays their 12 months in advance is an accountant. Accountants don't like spending money, but they see the 12% saving. They go, wow, that's better than my bank interest rate. Let's sign up on that. So it's a very powerful argument. Yes.
So how many employee wiki users do you have?
How many?
Employee wiki, how are you guys saying employee?
Employees?
Yeah.
Yep. And what's the next part?
How many?
Oh, how many employees? It's a bit complicated because I've got a number of businesses and there's some cross-use of employees, but I would say in this business, delivering these services, including our admin, sales, it's probably about 15. Okay?
How many?
15.
15.
There. I've got about 30 staff altogether, but I've got it's too complicated to go into, but I've got separate shops and separate businesses, but in this business here, there's about 15 delivering that. Yeah. So, the other thing that I'm very proud of is that I've got a 100% renewal rate. We're up to our 3rd year of renewals for our clients so far. Not one client has said, no, didn't work for me, I'm not going to sign up. Some clients go up a level, some clients stay on the same level, but 100% of the clients that we have ever signed up to an SLA have renewed each time it's come time to renew, which is something that's fantastic. What we see now is that I used to see that my business was a bit of a gamble. I used to come to work and just hope people had some problems, and it was really a bit like taking the money and just going out of the horse races and throwing it on, let it ride, throw it on a horse and see what happens. Now I feel like I've got a one-horse race. I've got one avenue that guaranteed generated income is coming in, and I feel like I'm on a winner every time. I'll just take, there's a question down the back, sir, or are you just stretching your arm?
How do you handle it when when the companies that you're doing the SLA for either hires more people or things like that, when they've already paid the contract ahead of time?
Yep, we do.
An additional bill for the remaining, let's say, 5 months?
Yep. Okay, good question. The gentleman at the back asked what happens when one of our clients adds extra PCs or extra employees to their network. What we do is when our, for example, monthly maintenance check is done, we'll make sure we do an audit every time when our technician goes out, and we don't mind if the client gets away with a couple of weeks with an extra PC, we can live with that, and all we do then is we just do a contract alteration, and we simply say, okay sir, you've got 7 months left on this contract, you've now got X number of PCs, the additional amount is this, there's your invoice for that. Simple as that. And if they've paid 12 months in advance, they'll pay that amount in advance, and if they're paying monthly, it'll just be their extra monthly amount. So you can keep adding to those as you go. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Not that people want this, but if the situation is that they drop an employee or two, is there like a pause on the contracts?
We just ignore that. We just. In real terms, we haven't really had it happen. If we're doing our job really well, our client should be getting bigger and busier. But if it happened and a client approached us, we would say, certainly, sir, let's reduce that, and here's a refund for that amount. It's all about the goodwill with the client. Yeah. I'll take one more over here. I'll keep going through. I have got some time at the end for questions, but I know it's almost beer o'clock. Do you have beer o'clock in America? So, yeah. Beer 30. Okay, yeah.
My question was, what is the competition like in your area? We're talking about 40,000 people.
At one stage in Dubbo, 40,000 people, there were 40 computer resellers.
Wow.
There. Now, a lot of those are going broke, and there was a fairly constant transition. Probably one a month was opening and closing. We're back now to about 25 in the market. Yeah. I'd argue that most of those 25 aren't doing what we're doing in any way, shape or form. They're doing break fix, they're selling PCs, but there's still a lot of competition out there. Yeah. And there's also Sydney. Sydney's 260 miles away. Some people still get their IT work done from Sydney. Sorry, sir, I won't take. I'll just keep going because I know there's some people here who look like they're foaming at the mouth down the front here. Their beard, taste buds are really going for it. So I've got to stop the question. So we'll keep going through. That gives you an idea of the results. Again, I feel like I'm really on a one-horse race. Very briefly, I'll just flick through some client quotes to give you an idea of what our clients say. And different things are triggers for different clients. The first client, and he's an accountant, the trigger for him was increased productivity and therefore greater profits. You'd expect that from an accountant. So that's something that he saw as really important to him. This client here is based in Sydney, 260 miles away. He sees our staff as being some of his team. He sees that close an affinity with our staff that he just feels like they're part of his team. He outsources all his IT to us, but he feels like we're just part of the team because we've got such regular ongoing contact with them. This particular client here is a building firm. The thing that appealed to them the most was the regular monthly maintenance. They've got a fairly harsh environment, so they thought having people come in and just check out their IT each month was really important. And the last one, I'm not sure how doctors are in America, but doctors in Australia, the poor dears, they're always complaining about not being paid enough. They're working too hard, sometimes a 6-hour day even. They're really struggling. This particular client was really annoyed with his last IT provider because sometimes he'd get a bill that he didn't expect. And it sometimes put like his next BMW or Mercedes-Benz purchase off by another couple of weeks. So he really didn't like that arrangement. He loved the fact that we gave him a fixed monthly fee every month for the services we were going to deliver. So he could better plan his next BMW or Mercedes-Benz purchase. So if you're sure, it is a different brand of car in America. What's seen as a luxury car? Is that okay? Good. I'm slowly learning. So just a quick couple of summary messages, and then I'll talk briefly about a product that I've got here to give you some more information on. I believe what I've seen is that the market expects something better. And I think the number of people who have got SLAs in this room already, I think you've seen as well. The market is demanding something better, and if you don't deliver it, I can guarantee there'll be someone else near you, around you, someone else that your clients can go and talk to that will deliver the sort of services that your clients want. If you don't deliver it, someone else will. You're better off being first in. If you get a well-researched and well-designed SLA and drop it into your business, I'll guarantee that your future profitability is guaranteed. I said it before, I thought we were going to go broke. I thought we probably had 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years at best, left in us under break fix, because I just couldn't see that the business model was sustainable. An SLA now, I'm very bullish about what I'm doing. I'm looking at other offices we can open. I'm looking at what we can do to expand our business, because things are just going so fantastically since we've put in SLAs. If you're going to start, I've already talked about it, 95% of the changes you will make as a result of this conference will happen in the next 7 days. If you're going to start today, start yesterday. As soon as you leave this conference, beer in one hand, PDA in the other, start mapping out the steps, start planning it. Only by starting can you finish. I didn't do research for this, but I'm pretty confident 100% of people who haven't started something haven't finished. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you can't finish it unless you start it. So start it. That's the key message. And that 70% of expenditure, that IT expenditure, is yours for taking. Let me talk briefly about this. So these are summary messages you really need to take away. About a year and a half ago, I spoke at a conference in Amsterdam, which is a great place to have a conference, and I talked about a similar concept, although that was still a bit behind this audience in terms of it was really talking about SLAs and what they were. At the end of it, some people in the audience came and asked me whether or not they could buy my model in terms of what I was delivering. And I hadn't really thought about it at that time, but I ended up agreeing to send them an email with all the documentation, all the spreadsheets, all the Word documents, the whole lot, for a very small fee that they could then drop into their business. And so that worked very successfully and has done, and we've been selling it around the world for the last year and a half. When I was coming to this conference, Microsoft asked me if I could generate a book out of that, because they thought that was a really important thing that they needed. So I've actually produced this book on how to implement, it's called Slam Your Services Revenue, on how to implement a SLA in your business. It's something you can drop straight in. So it's basically a field manual. It's still got the important part at the back there. It's got a DVD in the back there that has all the Word documents, all the spreadsheets, all the things that you would need to drop into your business. So that's something there that you can drop into your business literally tomorrow and actually start utilising in your business. So that's something that you can certainly take advantage of. I'll just briefly flick through what's in that. So I call it the Slam Field Manual. And again, it was really a request of Microsoft that we actually produce that, because they saw a need out there, especially the small business community, to really give them some help in what they might be able to do. So it allows you to implement your SLAs overnight. And we've seen people do that. People have actually said, I bought it one afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I've basically changed to suit that particular company. They've done a presentation the next morning, and they've rung me at lunchtime the next day and said, guess what, I sold my first SLA, based around the material that's in there, customised to their business within hours. So you can implement those SLAs straight away overnight, or you can just take the important parts. And we've set up a book that's basically got the key information that's on those documents on there in the hard copy format. It's got all the spreadsheets to help you price the SLAs, which is great for selling, but also to track. You want to be able to make sure that you can track when the maintenance visit's due, when the consultancy visit's due, a whole range of things there. It's also got the contract. Now that contract's been designed in Australia and Australian legal conditions. Most clients that buy it overseas give it to their solicitor and say, please have a read of this contract, what do we need to change? The solicitor will also always change 1 or 2 things to justify how much he's going to charge you for it. But typically we find that most things don't need to be changed in that, because it was originally designed for the international market. At the moment, there's over 100 people, 100 IT providers like yourselves across the world that are using that exact model that we've got on there. And sometimes they've taken 90% of it, sometimes they've taken 30% of it, but they're using that in their businesses across the world. And we've had some great feedback from some of those guys about what they're doing. So we sell it for US $9.99, and of course, the same as I do for my clients, as a money back guarantee. If you implement that in your business and you do not sign up an SLA client within 6 months, I'm happy to give you money back. The number of people I've had to do that so far, 0. There is enough in there. In fact, even if people don't sign up an SLA client, which I think they've all done, there's enough information in there to set up the framework that they can start delivering those services almost straight away. So that's something there. I've got some copies up the front, but it's also being sold in the bookstore over at Worldwide Partner Conference. So if you don't catch up with me afterwards, I'm happy to stay around for as long as you like, then certainly just go into the bookstore and buy that. And that's a way that you can quickly revolutionise. It took me 5 years to get to that point. If back in 2000 someone would have said to me, for $10,000, probably for $20,000, you can take something to drop in your business, I could see how important it was going to be for our business. I would have paid that kind of money for that many years ago. So I did say there was some time for some questions, so maybe you've got some questions about maybe our staff reaction or client reaction, or maybe some more questions about the SLA or the SLAM in terms of what people are doing around the world. So happy to take some questions. I'll let you start, sir.
What do you do to guarantee or to cover yourself that you don't take a new customer and go into an environment that is unmanageable?
That's a great question, and we had this question at the end of the last one as well. You sometimes go into an environment that isn't a great environment. Someone has set up a server, or someone set up an SPS server in a terrible way, or they've called the domain name the domain.com as the actual domain that they put on the server, which is a common thing I've seen. And you go into that environment, the first thing you do is you say, well, before we're going to support you, sir, you're going to spend X dollars. I'll give you a fixed price to get your network up to an acceptable level, then we're happy to look after you. If it's a network that we've done, no problem, we just sign them up because we're happy with the work that we've done. I've had, the dearest quote I've had to fix up a client before we take them on was $25,000. We would not touch them until they'd spent $25,000 in setting up their network. Sometimes it's $1,000, sometimes it's nothing. But it really, you need to do an initial audit first before you take them on. Otherwise, you're opening yourself up to a whole range of bad possibilities.
How many times do you get burned on fixed price?
Never, because it's all about give and take. So if you had one client only on fixed price, you could sometimes get burned. If you have, how does an insurance company work? An insurance company works by a lot of people on there and the odds. Exactly right. They have an actuary. Who said the odds? The odds. Thank you. They have an actuary working out. That's where it's squeezy. They have an actuary working that out. So you don't get burnt in that environment as long as you've got enough people. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are you using managed service software as well? Are you monitoring these networks 24/7? You remote in as much as possible?
Yep. So the question was, do we monitor? Do we use some software to monitor? Absolutely. We've tried a few different packages out. We tried, a gentleman mentioned level platforms before. We've tried a few different packages. We're currently using Kaseya, and I'm not, not here advertising Kaseya, but that's just what we use. And we use CRM to actually track what we're doing in terms of the internal systems as such. So you need to have something to be able to track them. You've got some key deliverables, so you need to be able to have something to track. What you choose is entirely up to you, but you need to have something there, something that you're comfortable with. Yeah, thanks, good question. Yes, down the back.
Just one thing to add, Americans do have barbecues.
Do they?
They don't have solicitors.
Oh, you don't have
We knew that they get arrested.
I was going to say, do you not have solicitors because you've run them all out of the country? They've all gone to California.
We wish we didn't have solicitors. This guy's got
By the time you're done.
You're starting to get paranoid there. Sorry, there's another question over here.
Could you take me through the process of, you mentioned there are times when you do bill a customer something above and beyond the normal SLA amount. How do you present that to the customer and what kind of a situation that is?
There's different situations depending on your level of SLA. The level of SLA, on a platinum, it's very rare, but let's take a simple example of a bronze client who only really gets some basic back-end maintenance done. When a bronze client rings up and says, I'd like ABC done, thanks, we've got a technical coordinator. She's fantastic and she knows nothing about IT. Her job is to manage the technicians. We call her the mum to the technicians. So she tells them where to go, what to be, where to be, to tuck their shirt in, whatever. She's responsible for giving that client a quote. The first thing she does, the client says, I've got A, B and C I need done. She says, no problems at all, sir, I'll get a fixed price for you. She runs over to one of the technicians and says, client wants A, B and C done, what's it going to be? We've got a huge spreadsheet, which we include in SLAM, of all these variable things that might happen. It may be one of those things. A new user creation, for example, very simple thing to do, there's a fixed price. She just quotes off the spreadsheet. If it's something else outside that spreadsheet, she finds a technician, how much is this? He scratches his head, works it out, it's $500.
Double the price.
Double the price, that's right, she doubles the price. No, she takes that price back and says to the client, that'll cost you $500 for A, B and C. We can do it at this time, would you like to go ahead? Simple as that. The client might say no. She's wasted 5 minutes of her time and wasted very little time of a technician. Our technicians in our organisation are our demigods. That's where our income generation is derived from. We have an internal focus on make sure our technicians only do what a technician needs to do. And if there's something else that someone else can do, let someone else do it. Don't waste a technician's time with doing admin, quoting, all that sort of thing. Let the technicians do what they need to do only. Simple enough process?
Absolutely.
Make sense? Yeah, good. Question down the back, sir.
How do you handle then while you were here, could you? Do they call back in to get another quote?
That's the one time a technician would quote something on the spot. While you're here, could you please, A, B and C, certainly sir, and it doesn't matter if he doesn't get it exactly right, the fact is that they're charging something for it. And if I go back to the old days, how many times would one of our guys be out there, and he comes back after a day, and we said, you're only going out to change the toner cartridge for that guy, what happened? Oh, while I was there, and away it goes. They don't charge that. Even if we're getting some money, something that would have been done in the past for free, it's a huge improvement over what we used to get. And that's sometimes the attitude we take. If the technician gets it a bit wrong, if he quotes $300 and it should have been $400, we're not going to cut his throat and send him out the back. We're going to say, well, that's all right, you charge him out next time, try and get it this amount. Yeah. Sorry, before you, sir, there was another gentleman who wanted to ask a question before who I said wait till later, but I think he's gone now. Yeah, sorry, sir.
We pay our technicians different rates, one for admin time, one for billable time. How do you handle that when you're working under an SLA model?
So you charge out your techs to the client at a certain rate for admin and a certain rate
For billable, collectible billable time.
Yep. Easy. You don't charge out your technicians.
How do you pay them? You pay them one flat rate for everything?
Sorry, you're saying you work out how much they are paid by their admin and the technical. Okay, good, great question. What we do is we don't care what hours they're doing what. What we care is how much income they're generating for our organisation. So our rewards for our technicians are not based around any amount of hours of work they do, it's based around the productivity, i.e. dollars for me, that they generate. I'm not sure how it works in America, but in Australia we have our profit and loss that we have all our figures on at the end of the year. And I've looked everywhere on my profit and loss, I've turned it upside down, looked on the back and looked it upside down. I cannot see anywhere on there that it said how many hours I made last year.
Okay.
What I do see is how many dollars I make. So I want to reward my staff on how many dollars they're generating for me based around what's going to be good for me, which is dollars. That's a little bit tricky when you've got SLA work being done. So you've got to be careful in terms of how you track that, but that's really the process. You really focus on the actual dollars that that particular staff member is generating for you. And then, are they going to do admin work? No, they're going to go out and do technical work, which is great. Okay, I'll just finish off there with, really, I suppose, one of the questions, I haven't shown any more, I'm scared of hitting someone on the head and knocking someone out, so if you ask a question, feel free to come and grab a squeezy. But you've really got to make a decision on where you want to be. That's the crucial part of it. If you want to be in services, and you may make the decision to just be in hardware sales, but if you want to be in services, I believe you need to have a compelling SLA offering to be able to take out to your clients. I've said it before, your clients will look at your competitors. They will have an SLA at some stage in the future. You need to have a compelling SLA. You also need to make sure that the SLA that you've got is going to help your business. It's definitely going to be a help to your business. Some of the things that I see in that is it's going to increase that long-term guaranteed revenue. That's great. It gives some surety to our income. What's it going to do to your business when you get to the stage where you want to sell it? People are going to look at it and say, wow, you've got all these contracts, you've got all this future income, you've got a very saleable business compared to a business that's a very ad hoc nature. The multiple that you'll get for your business when you've got contracts in place is typically a multiple of around, say, 3 to 5. A multiple in place when you haven't got that sort of guaranteed revenue, maybe 1 to 2. It's adding a lot of value to the business when you come time to retire. It's going to reduce your costs, it's going to reduce your staff costs, it's going to reduce the ad hoc nature of the work you do, which is definitely going to reduce your costs. It's going to serve your customers better. That's great because you're going to get happier customers, you're going to enjoy working with them better, and you're going to have clients who are going to talk about your business. They're going to be advocates for your business in a much stronger way than ever before. One of the expressions I love, Take the pain out of your client's IT. We all love IT. We don't need to be convinced that IT is absolutely fantastic. We all love gadgets. We all love the latest things. We're probably all early adopters. Our clients sometimes find that IT is a pain. They go, I just want it to work. It's a bit of a pain. One of the expressions that I use, especially with our platinum clients, is our job, take the pain away from your IT. We just let the IT do what it's meant to do. We'll take the pain away because we kind of like that. We kind of like playing with it, so we'll take that pain away. So what I'd say is really slam your services revenue today. Thank you very much. Great audience.